Hello, this is Joe Polish, president of Piranha Marketing and founder of the Genius Network interview series, and you're about to hear one of my Genius Network interviews, and I just want to thank you for taking the time to listen to this, and I hope you find it very useful. If you want to find out more information about some of the interviews and resources that can help you in your business, you can go to www.joepolish.com. And we have a Joe Polish Recommends section with all kinds of resources and vendors and services and products that we recommend that can help you in your business. And also for more useful interviews and a whole list of other people that I've interviewed, you can go to www.geniusnetwork.com. Thanks and enjoy the interview. Hello, this is Joe Polish. I want to welcome you to another edition of Genius Network. Today, I'm going to be interviewing my friend and very interesting guy and author of The Toilet Paper Entrepreneur, Michael Michalowicz. Michael, how you doing today?
Good, Joe. How are you doing?
I'm doing awesome. So, hey, I'm happy to do this interview today. I know we're going to talk about some amazing stuff. So let me first give the listeners a little bit of background about you by reading your bio. This is the only part of the interview that I'll be reading. So let me talk about Michael. Michael Michalowicz started his first business at age 24, moving his young family to the only safe place he could afford, a retirement village. With limited resources and no experience, he systematically bootstrapped a multi-million-dollar technology business, sleeping in conference rooms to avoid hotel costs. After selling his first company, Mike launched a new business the very next day, and in less than 3 years, sold it to a Fortune 500. With his newest multi-million-dollar venture, Obsidian Launch, he fosters startup businesses with his get-rich-right approach. Now, did I say Obsidian correctly? Because I've always wondered about that.
You nailed it. That's exactly how it's pronounced.
See, I'm not as dumb as I look, so this is good. Okay, also, Michael is a graduate of Inc. and MIT's Birthing a Giants entrepreneurial program. Mike's received multiple entrepreneurship awards, including the SBA's Young Entrepreneur of the Year. He is a reoccurring guest on CNBC's The Big Idea with Donnie Deutsch, ABC News, and other television programs. He's been featured on National Public Radio, NPR, and in the New York Times Smart CEO magazine and other publications. Mike is a frequent guest lecturer for entrepreneurial groups and professional business groups throughout the world. He's also a reoccurring guest lecturer for entrepreneurial programs at Babson, Boston College, Columbia, Harvard, Penn State, Princeton, and other colleges throughout the country, many of which, Michael, that you probably would have never graduated from, correct?
No, I probably couldn't even gotten into. The funniest thing is when I presented at Harvard, I said, what am I doing here? I struggled through Virginia Tech, and now they have me lecturing to 200 entrepreneurs there. It's kind of funny.
Yeah, and you're probably giving them much better advice than they're actually getting by going to the colleges themselves, which I think is always enjoyable about crazy, wild entrepreneurs that by many people's standards are radical thinkers and risk takers and abnormal and all that. But within all of that, which you do a great job of describing in your book, The Toilet Paper Entrepreneur, why that is and how that works. So what else are you doing that needs to be said before I launch into asking you some questions that I didn't mention in this prepared bio?
Well, there's always new stuff going on. Just got called by Rachel Ray, so I'll be on the Rachel Ray program, it looks like. Not 100% sure.
Really?
Wow. Yeah. She'll be cooking, and I'll be cooking the books or something. I don't know. But what they wanted to talk about was the strategies of growing a business without money. A lot of people that watch that program are at home. It's either the husband or the wife. Most often it's the wife. And they got to be home because they have young children, and that's also often an excuse not to start a business. I can't. I'm raising a family, but I'm a big proponent. That's actually an opportunity. So they just called this past Friday and said, "Could you come on the show and talk about that?" So that's a cool little thing that's going on.
Awesome. Well, let me first mention that again. The title of your book, it is a unique title called The Toilet Paper Entrepreneur, the Tell It Like It Is Guide to Cleaning Up in Business, even if you're at the end of your role, which is kind of amusing. And it's filled with a lot of potty humor and stuff like that, but it's also got some great business analogies. And I personally like that sort of stuff because it's real and it's unique and it's humorous, but at the same time, it's, so many business books have no basis on reality and, talk about all of the good stuff and the possibilities and success, and you have a very contrarian approach. I mean, you mention and discuss and also share what you feel exactly what to do and how to do it to build and grow grow a successful business, including all the things to look out for, but you do it in a very unique way. So I'd first like to have you define, because we're going to talk about toilet paper entrepreneurs throughout this interview. I'm going to ask you questions to define what the heck is a toilet paper entrepreneur. I mean, why do you use that term? How'd you come up with it? That sort of stuff.
Well, what I wanted to do was make and show people how entrepreneurialism is not for the elite few. It's not for this special crowd. I mean, there are certain requirements. You have to have the gut feel, and you have to naturally be born to be a risk taker. But if you have that element and you follow your passion and a field that you're very interested, very excited about, you can excel. But so what I wanted to do was kind of open people's eyes and think of a situation that everyone's been in that identifies true entrepreneurship, even if it's not in a business yet, at least. I was sitting in the bathroom when I was thinking of this, and I'm like, I can't think of anything. And, divine spiritual intervention delivered a mere 3 sheets to me. So I was finishing up my business. I looked over to my left, and there's 3 sheets. And, I think we all get in that situation. I'm like, God damn it, 3 sheets. But so instantly your mind kicks in, and you root through the garbage can, you tear up the cardboard roll itself, you find a way to survive. And everyone's been in that situation, and no one sits there and just starts crying, says, I'm done, my life is over, I'm going to stay here. You find a way to get through it. And the tie into entrepreneurship is most of us, 99.9% of us, don't start with a full roll. A full roll of cash, forget it. A full Rolodex, forget it. We have very few contacts. So it takes out-of-the-box thinking. You got to be willing to dive in the dumpster. And I'm not just saying that. My first desk was an old door that someone threw in a dumpster, and I put it on those carton things, those milk cartons. I really did that. You got to be willing to do non-traditional things to get stuff done. Another one thing I did when I started, I couldn't afford an attorney or an accountant to get my business in order, but to get started, you need that. So after a little thought, I went to the local college, Fairleigh Dickinson, right here in New Jersey, and asked for the legal department. And sure enough, professors there teaching are lawyers. So I asked if I could get some free legal work, the NDAs and the operating agreement and all that stuff, for free. And they said, yeah, but in exchange, we want you to be a case study for our legal class, our class on Business 101. So I'm like, hell yeah. So I got all this free legal documentation in exchange, just to let the class see what it's like to start a business, and then also identified a student there that I ultimately went on to hire. So to me, that's what true entrepreneurship is. It's like the bathroom experience, getting caught with 3 sheets. You don't give up. That's when you have to become innovative.
Well, and by the way, I've never been put in that situation.
Oh, come on.
I don't know what you're talking about. No, I'm not going to go there. But anyway, I just don't want to admit to it if I have. Because, I have a very pristine reputation to uphold here, and we don't want to
that's
have
why
this
I heard
kind
you.
of damage it. Yeah. Now, so, I mean, in your opinion or experience, how much of people being successful, really is luck, born into it, being at the right place at the right time, genetics, whatever? There's a lot of people that get really wealthy and get rich in spite of the economy, whatever, but the vast majority just struggle. They never really pull it all together. They live, the quote, quiet lives of desperation, and they never really get out of it. So, what is your take on all that?
I believe very little in luck. There's always the elements, but to me, when I put an effort forward, it's amazing how much luck springs up on its own, It's always been there. What I think the defining factor truly is, the foundational component to entrepreneurial success, is the person's mindset. Do they have a limiting mindset or an enabling mindset? And the one example I use over and over, I just lectured this past weekend and at a local university. Actually, not so local. It was about 6 hours from my house. But at a university, and I've done this exact same presentation over and over. I talk about my book, and people still have this limiting belief. And what I do is I go in front of the class, who wants to be a millionaire? Everyone raises their hand. They all want to be a millionaire. And this was 300 people, by the way. So then I say, who is a millionaire? And all the hands go down. Then I ask similar questions like that. Who wants to live a life where you can do what you want when you want? Hands up. Who is? Hands down. I ask 2 or 3 more questions like that. And then what I do is I will pull out a $100 bill out of my pocket. This, by the way, was an old method used by Jack Canfield. Some other presenters use it. It's so effective. I hold up the $100. I said, "Who wants $100?" All the hands are up. I said, well, who wants it? And I repeat that "who wants it" about 5 or 6 times, and then inevitably one person very sheepishly will get up, kind of come to the stage, and will take it out of my hand. And then there's like the what the F kind of situation. Like everyone's like, well, what the heck just happened here? You can't take money from someone. And then I explain that it's simply our beliefs. I mean, there's literally nothing between me standing on the stage and the people in the audience. It's just air between us. There's nothing physically preventing them. The only thing that stops them is their mind. And when they see someone hold up a $100 bill, who wants it, they say to themselves in their heads, "Yeah, I want it, but I don't deserve it. I shouldn't get it. It's a trick. It's going to be a demonstration. It's going to be embarrassing." These are all the thoughts. And it's those limiting thoughts that keep their ass stuck in the seat. And then the one person, and it does get up, I go to them, I'll say, "Well, what were you thinking?" And they were thinking the same thoughts. I don't deserve it. It's a trick. But at a certain point, they say, "God damn it, this guy keeps asking the same question. What do I have to lose?" Or, I'm just going to go for it. And the most amazing part is that when they get up and all the eyes turn to the person getting up, then that initial that thought that became enabling now becomes momentum. And they have to go for it. I mean, it's embarrassing. You can't just sit back down. You have started. And they grab the money. And in that one little demonstration, that defines entrepreneurs that succeed versus everybody else. The entrepreneurs that are successful, the guys and gals that are making millions of bucks, that are living a life that they're so happy about, is simply started with enabling beliefs. They say, "Absolutely, I'm going for it. I'm absolutely going to succeed. There's no question this is going to work." And then the momentum starts, and all the motion, all the effort behind it, that finds its own way. They figure that out. But it all starts and ends with powering, enabling beliefs.
These beliefs, yeah, and you describe this in great detail in your book, and you actually give people a process in the book on how to actually identify what are disabling and enabling beliefs, and it's filled with great thought-provoking questions and a process that you take people through. So if this resonates with anyone, pick up the book. I'm just going to make the assumption that everyone listening here will pick up a copy of The Toilet Paper Entrepreneur, available all bookstores, Amazon, you name it. When it comes to a belief system, there's a lot of consumption of different things that different authors, speakers, quote-unquote successful people will say, "Do this, do that." But you're saying at the core of it, until you actually get that belief in line, you're never going to achieve not only success in business, but probably not the relationship that you want, not the fitness level that you want, maybe not the lifestyle that you want. I mean, does this apply to everything or simply just business?
No, it applies to everything. And actually, Joe, you said the key word. You said resonate earlier. If this resonates with you, pick up the book. Well, it's true in all aspects of life. When something resonates with you, that is your internal guidance system. That's the most powerful system we have, saying you got to go for it. And it's kind of tying back into that $100 example. If I ask people, I do ask people that didn't get up why they didn't get up, and they explain it. And I said, "What was your gut saying?" And they said, "It felt knotted. It didn't feel right. You saw the money. My mind was saying, 'Don't do it. It's a trick.' But my gut says, 'Oh God, I so want that.'" And you could feel the twist. The person that goes for it ultimately trusted their gut. Their mind said, "You know what? What do I have to lose?" And their gut said, "You're right." And they could feel the emotional build. So that's what you got to trust. Listening to our discussion right now, if you're listening and say, "This is garbage, this guy's talking out of, blowing smoke and it's all smoke and mirrors," then you're right. It also is smoke and mirrors. Trust yourself. But conversely, if you're listening to this interview or something resonates with you, that's your gut saying go for it. And you're doing a huge disservice to yourself by not trusting your instinct and going for it. And that's, by the way, the other component. In addition to enabling beliefs, the most successful entrepreneurs trust their instinct emphatically. And they could have hundreds of people, and I've had hundreds of people tell me what they're doing is wrong or idiotic or it'll never work. But internally, they feel that alignment. Their gut says, "No, it's right, go for it." Then you have to. And the people that service that gut instinct, they rock and roll.
Yeah, it's real interesting too, because every successful entrepreneur, at least that I know, maybe there's a couple out there that this has never happened to. They have enormous amounts of naysayers in the beginning. In many cases, no support structure whatsoever in terms of their friends or family or circle of influence. I mean, they literally need to seek out and develop entirely new relationships with people that are aligned with them, because even maybe their family, in many cases, that has the best of intentions, they're afraid of risk. They're not aligned with them, and they don't have a lot of support. And so, the entrepreneur, left to their own devices, the real one is able to put all that crap to the side, jump and dive into hope and just do it anyway. But that's, so many people, they get so close. I mean, they go right out to the edge of the diving board and they think about it, and they, a lot of times they'll spend their entire life there. Just they never jump in because of that fear. And in your book, when you're talking about that dollar bill example, you say the only difference between you holding up that dollar bill and the rest of the room is air. It's that airspace
Right.
between that audience and them, literally the person that will walk up there and be the first one to do it. And I consider that airspace fear. There's probably other reasons, of course, but a lot of it is just, it is a trick. This guy's going to embarrass me, or this guy's not going to let me have it, or whatever. But a lot of people, it's so right in front of them. One person will say, well, what the hell? I'm just going to go get the money. And in a lot of cases, most of the fears and the failures are not real physical dangers. They're psychological. There's all these excuses that people make up in their head, which I'm going to ask you about. What are the most common excuses that people use to avoid launching a business? Because much of what you teach is how to actually start a business from people that have never even done that. And a lot of people listening to this interview already have a business, but it still is the same sort of thing. Wherever you're at, there's always another level if you're willing to create enabling beliefs in order to do it. So instead of me just sitting here babbling, the point I want to see if you could make or describe for me is this intense fear and limitations that people have. What needs to happen in order for them to flip the switch in their mindset so that they can move forward and get much of the opportunities that are right there in front of them if they just get off their butts and go do it?
Yeah. The first thing people have to recognize is the first guy up wins. So the first person that got out of their seat and went for it got all the money. And it's no coincidence. I mean, we all expect it. When the first person gets up, then the people that were on the board, or on that diving board, if you will, the few people in the back say, oh my God, and they start getting up because they see the first person taking action, and the fear gets defeated on them because they're not embarrassed in front of the group. But it's too late. Too late. Someone else got the money. Game over. So the key is when we're stuck in that entrepreneurial purgatory, sitting there going, oh, I'm so scared, I don't know if I can make it. Yeah, we have to first recognize if we don't do it, someone else will, and they're going to win the prize. And sometimes that alone, that recognition, the true recognition of that, is enough. But the second thing is we can still leverage that component where the other person went ahead of us and kind of made the awaken there behind them that we can kind of leverage off of. So when someone else went up to grab that dollar and the other people felt enabled, we can do the same in business. The key is stop hanging out with the people you're hanging out with. My 5 closest friends when I started my first company never had an entrepreneurial business. I said I was going to become an entrepreneur and start a business. They said, "Are you crazy? You don't know what that means. You're not going to succeed." Most businesses fail. 90% of businesses fail. So, and that becomes very real. But what I did was I started just calling on people that were really successful and saying, "Hey, can I, just hang out with you and ask you questions about business?" And they're like, "Yeah." People love, entrepreneurs love to share our stories, and especially our war stories and how, from rags to riches. So I started hanging out with these people, and I'd ask them the same question. I'm thinking about starting a business. And their response is, "Are you crazy? Are you crazy for not doing it earlier?" The same, "Are you crazy?" But the people that hadn't done it saying, "Are you crazy? You're going to lose everything." These people are you crazy for not have done it yesterday or doing it yesterday? You got to start now. So the second key is go in someone else's wake. Look for people that have already achieved what you want to achieve and start acquainting yourself with them. Maybe you can't meet them face-to-face, but man, Joe, you've been extremely successful. I would be all over your I am actually all over your website and learning so much, reading the books, checking out the videos, steeping myself in the knowledge. And I always like to pick 5 entrepreneurs I look up to, that have components I really aspire to, and really steep myself in what they're doing. And that defeats so much of that fear. Especially, by the way, especially when I hear what I call the real stories. When people hear my bullet points, oh, you go through 3 multi-million-dollar companies, and I was, by the way, the most frequented guest ever on The Big Idea with Donnie Deutsch. People like, oh, God, Mike, you're a douche. Oh, they're not saying it to my face, by the way, but they're thinking I'm a douche. And when I hear other people's success stories, I think the same thing. They don't deserve it. They were silver spooned. They're probably dealing drugs on the side. But when I hear the real story behind it, the struggles they went through, the techniques they used to move to the next level, that becomes very enabling. So we all, as aspiring entrepreneurs, we need to get steeped in other people that have been successful and have led the way for us and really learn their real story. And that technique alone gets most people past that barrier of fear.
No, you're right, and that's great advice, and it reminds me of, I have a friend, I won't mention his name, he's a pretty well-known entrepreneur, and he'll break $100 million in revenue this year, and he's in one of my high-level coaching groups, which is a $25,000 a year group called Genius Network Mastermind. And I've hung out with this guy over the last couple of years quite a bit, and I even went back to his small town that he grew up in and met his family and all his high school friends and buddies that he hung out with. And growing up, I mean, he just didn't have a lot of money. He wasn't dirt poor, but literally was probably like lower middle class and lots of struggles and stuff, and shy small kid in high school and that sort of stuff, but just had a dream, had a drive, and all of his buddies, which he's still friends with these guys, and I've met them, and they're all really nice people, but none of them have any of the entrepreneurial drive or anywhere near the success is this guy. And I've had lots of conversations with him about this, and I mean, he's even flown them into town, lets them stay at, he has a huge house, and, just tries to mentor them and help them. And I am yet to see it happen with one of his other friends and he even said for years, I would try to give him, advice, and I'd say, check this out, hang out with this person, do this, do that. And no one ever did it. And it's now that he's, reached such a huge level of financial success, this desire is there, but there's still something missing, and what is missing, and I refer to it as the juice. You either have the juice or you don't have the juice. Right. And if you kind of have that desire in you, there's a lot of people that you can literally infuse yourself with, to use my words, the juice if you hang out with them. And you said a really important thing, and it's real easy to move on to this interview and say, oh, let's talk about other stuff. As you said, quit hanging out with a lot of the friends you're hanging out with. And in many cases, that's true. I mean, I have a belief that where I'm going to be a year from today, where everyone that's listening to us right now is going to be a year from today, has a hell of a lot to do with the people that you meet, the books that you read, and what you do with the advice, the suggestions, the insights that you get from those books and those people. And if you hang around with losers all the time, what do you expect to happen? It's kind of like, what do you expect to happen if you sit in, are your lungs going to be really clean if you sit in a smoky bar and just breathe in smoke all day long? Or if you just eat, fast food all day long, do you really expect your digestive tract to be working well? What makes you think your brain and your activities are going to function well when your group of friends or people that you hang out with do nothing to support you in quote-unquote entrepreneurial or success or growth? And so I think it's huge, and many people don't put the significance on it that I think it deserves.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right. I have a little trademark saying. It's not really trademark. I just like to say that. But the saying everyone says is, you are what you eat, right? My saying is, you are who you meet. And I also call it the mob effect. Your 5 closest friends are you. And it's amazing. If you really look at the 5 people that you talk to most, are most connected with, that you hang out with most frequently, if you pick the 5, you will see that you are right in this middle of their demographic typically, and psychographic. So you probably have a similar income to them. You most likely have same interests in sports or not sports, or whatever your entertainment interests are. You have the same kind of values. Chances are you have the same number of kids. It's almost bizarre if you look at it, if you have children. And if you don't have children, chances are they don't either. It is who you meet. So what I like to do is say, what do I want to achieve in my life. And it's not just financial. Actually, financial for me is secondary or tertiary. The first thing, hands down, is happiness. If I ain't smiling, no money can buy me out of that one. And my family, my children, my wife are everything to me, everything. And then financial just simply allows me to do more of the stuff with them that I want to do. So I look at these different groups, and I pick for my family, for example, I hang out with 5 guys that I think are literally the best fathers I've ever met in my life. And when I hang out with them, it naturally kind of trickles into me. I do stuff with my kids I would never even thought of, but these guys are like, oh, all the time we go on these camping events, or we're going to do this with our son, we're going to take him to baseball camp, why don't you join us, Mike, and all these different things, and it's elevated me to a whole new level of fatherhood. The same thing is, entrepreneurial success. I hang out with and really, really try to get all the knowledge I can suck out of men and women that are at what I consider the next level. I mean, these people are running $50 to $100 million companies. And just by hanging out with them, you naturally start becoming them. It's almost kind of like magical or mystical or bizarre, but you just start becoming who you hang out with. So I pick for different categories, and I have like 4 or 5 categories. I pick out my groups of 5, and it's always, I don't know why the number works for me, but it's 5. So there's 5 people I'm very close with in business that are all at the level I want to be at, and I'm very quickly attaining that. When it comes to father, being a father, same thing. When it comes to the spiritual, religious side, that's important to me, and I hang out with 5 people that I feel are leaders in that category, and I start becoming that. The interesting thing, and I think this is true for all of us, there is no one person that defines what we want to become. I admire Dale Carnegie, who's passed away a long time ago, but he has personal relationships. How he managed personal relationships was huge to me, so I study him ravenously. But when it comes to financial success, there's other people I'm looking at. And when I blend all these people together, it becomes this kind of new, super-powered hybrid that I'm aspiring to. It becomes kind of that light that I'm being sucked into. And I think we got to recognize there's I've never seen it where one person is someone we want to aspire to. It's these groups of 5, and then you blend the best aspects of those groups of 5 together, and that becomes what you're aspiring and moving toward.
Yeah, kind of like a good-looking Frankenstein, I would say.
Right.
And it's true, because I know a lot of people that that I just take. There's a lot of people that I absolutely admire many things about them, and there's other things that I don't. And so you pick and choose, and I think that's a really great way of looking at it. And what you also said about Dale Carnegie as an example, his book How to Win Friends and Influence People, I've read that a boatload of times. It's fantastic, and you can learn from somebody that's written a book. This Genius Network interview, people are listening to us right now. Many of them may never meet you or I. However, this is mental vitamins. Genius Network is a mental vitamin for someone. And when someone reads your book, they get your life experience condensed in you breaking down, what works, what doesn't work, how to apply it in your own way. And that's very important. I don't know where I first heard this, but I think it was Joe Stump said it. Said that not all readers are leaders, but I don't know any leaders that aren't readers. And what that means is some people may not read books. They may just hang out with people, go to seminars. They get education somewhere. They don't just sit in a room and all of this insight comes to them. What it is it's this seed that you have inside you, and you nurture it and you water it and you develop it. And if you want to hang out, if you want the best life in the world, like you said, I want to be a fantastic parent. Who's a fantastic parent? And that's what I would consider your Genius Network. Like, who are all the people out there that have wisdom that you can grasp some of that and allow you to grow. And then, of course, you share it with other people, and that's what makes the world go around. That's what a real contributing entrepreneur actually does.
Just to add one component, I got an email. It was an interesting email because it was a dichotomy. The guy said, I hate your style, you're brash and offensive. And he goes, but I love what you have to say. And so my response to him is, well, absorb what you love and ignore what you hate. And I think that's how we have to do it with all these genius networks we affiliate with. Go for the stuff you love, and if you find stuff that's incongruent, but pointing back to your gut, doesn't resonate with you, that's the stuff you disregard.
I'm glad you said that, because that is people, first off, what I like about your book, not only do I like profanity and think it's amusing, people really need to frickin' lighten the hell up. I mean, people are so damn uptight, and they'll come up with anything to get offended and get bent out of shape over, because, I mean, the world is just filled with situational ethics and people that can make dirty jokes and do this one way, but then when they go in another situation, they have to pretend that they really don't think these things and shit. There's nothing in your book that you've written about that, unless someone's insane, has not thought about. Most of them are just unwilling to, get up there and say it. And what's great about books like yours is you're just saying the same shit that everyone thinks, but they just don't have enough balls to say it.
Exactly. So, wow. See, now
I like that.
See, that's the hidden message. It was the first guy. I told you about the $100 bill. The first person wins. I wanted to be the first guy to write a book for this genre this way, to prove that this is stuff we've all been thinking, but I'm the first guy saying it, and I want to prove, and that's how you come out winning.
Right. And the people that are like, oh, I can't get any value out of this person because, I used to have long hair and a ponytail, and one of my goals was to become a millionaire looking however I wanted to look. Now, I didn't look like a complete freak. Right. However, I didn't want to, I was not the stereotypical quote-unquote millionaire, a guy with a long hair and ponytail that was outspoken and everything. And, the fact is I just wanted to do it. And a lot of people, said to me that, clients, I wouldn't buy anything from you because you had long hair and a ponytail. And I'm just like, man, you just really limit yourself in lots of ways. I wonder what other areas that you come up with as bullshit excuses to not do anything. But that goes back to what are the most common excuses people avoid. So when someone says, oh, it's because everything's got to be perfect, or I just really have to like everything about that person in order to get any value out of what they say or their relationship. And personally, that's one of the biggest self-imposed hurdles that people have. And if they think that way in one area, it's a saying that wherever you see one cockroach, there's many more where that one came from. And when you hear someone, throw out an excuse, you can guarantee that they're probably filled with them.
Yeah.
What
you're saying is the syndrome is I call it the just like me syndrome. Everyone naturally wants to hang out with people just like them, but that prohibits expansion. So if I only hung out with guys that are exactly like me, it would be a freaking limiting world. I would always hear the same stuff, the same everything, the things I want to hear, but it would be no expansion. But if you start going outside the box and hanging out with the people that are incongruent, inconsistent with what you are, but then again, it resonates with you, well, there you go. Touchdown. Now you're really expanding. That's how you move forward.
Yeah, absolutely. I was staying at Canyon Ranch several years ago, which is a resort in Tucson, Arizona. It's a nice spa. And in one day, I had breakfast, lunch, and dinner with a whole variety of different people. One was a Catholic priest that was lecturing there, named Father Joseph. Another was a dinner with a guy named Richard Rainwater, who's a billionaire, one of the investors in Canyon Ranch. And another guy, I cannot remember his name, he's a professor that wrote a book on proof that life exists after you die. And he somehow had some sort of evidence that life really does exist after you die. And another guy was in the how to pick up women business. And I had like lunch, breakfast, dinner with all of these individuals. And then, of course, my great friend Gloria Askin, who's like this wild 70-year-old crazy Jewish woman from New York that's phenomenal and awesome and funny and all that. But nonetheless, all these different characters. And at the end of the day, I thought, God, what a huge difference of personalities and beliefs of all these different people that I all hung out with in one day and, had really deep conversations with and stuff. But I thought, how many people don't put themselves out there and do stuff like that? I mean, how wonderful is it to expand your mind just by meeting different people, asking them questions and listening to what they have to say and not, in many cases, having judgment about it, just seeing what you can absorb and take. In the 12-step programs, they say take what you like and leave the rest. And I think that's great wisdom.
It absolutely is. And I bet you, while I clearly was not with you at those events, I bet you that you had found a common thread, maybe that quote-unquote greater truth, if you will, for yourself, because you talk to such a diverse group.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And one of the big threads is this. There are people that are out there doing something. They're trying to contribute. You know, even if people like or dislike what someone has to say, I admire people that are out there at least saying and trying to make whatever their own difference is. I mean, and I'm not talking about evil, deeds and people out there hurting and damaging people. I mean, simply people that are out there trying to make a difference and convey what it is they know and create something, create their version of value. And that's what I really admire, and that's what I really look for. And I've learned a tremendous amount from people that have a lot of areas of them, that characteristics that I would not very much like or agree with. But that's beside the point, because it's you can get any value. There's another great term, which is some people's purpose in life is to be a bad example. And you can learn a lot from bad examples also. So, well, let me ask you first, because I should have done this a little early on, Michael. Could you give some examples of hugely successful toilet paper entrepreneurs, so that people listening could have some context of what you consider the people that are out there that have made it happen, that have the characteristics that you totally describe and teach people how to develop in your book?
Yeah. So my favorite is Gary Erickson. If you ever ate a Cliff Bar, you are eating Gary Erickson's product, and that came out from a toilet paper process, if you will. And really what it is he started with very few, nearly zero resources, and brings about radical innovation and change and springboards them to the top. And what Gary did, if you don't know his story, he was living in Colorado, out west, in a garage. I mean, he was living in a garage. That's where his bed was and his sink. And he had his one passion there, which was his bikes. He liked to road bike. And what he'd do is go on these like 70 or 80 or 100-mile treks in a single day, which to me is absurdly crazy. I couldn't even imagine going 5 miles on a bike in a week. So he was going on this trip and with some of his buddies, and he was eating power bars, that nutrition bar. And when they go on these trips, I mean, you tear through a lot of energy, so you got to keep on taking in the calories. They brought, each of them 10 power bars each for this trip, along with their water. And he says by the time he got to like the third or fourth power bar, he said, I can't eat any more. These are disgusting. I can't. It's unedible or inedible, whatever the term is. And he said that was his aha moment. There's no way he's going to have to have something where he can't eat it continuously. He wanted to have a nutritious bar, one that provides protein and calories and all the stuff necessary for athletic endurance sports, but it's got to taste great. And he combined these things, taste great and high performance. So he went back to his garage, and out of his garage, he's sitting there, asked his mom for the recipe and for assistance on how to cook stuff. And on his little stovetop burner, there's a little electric burner, he started making this stuff. And it took him, I think, like 6 months to a year to really get some formulas that he really liked himself, but he stuck with it. And then, he didn't have a $1 million budget. He didn't have a $10 budget to go out and market this thing. So he went to flea markets, and he would just walk the flea market around there and say, who wants to taste my new power bar? And, people would ignore him. They would walk by and say, are you kidding me? But he would try to throw one in their hand or get in their hand. And sure enough, they popped in their mouth. Every single one turned around and said, what is this? It's delicious. This is a nutrition bar. And that started the grassroots efforts. You fast forward a little bit longer, he gets his own kitchens and starts cooking this stuff and delivering it regularly and packaging it and selling it to the local groceries and grocery stores and so forth. You fast forward a little more, and he's got a $200 million company. And it didn't take that long. I mean, this happened in a compressed period. I dare say 15 years. That ain't too shabby. The Life is Good guys, if you ever bought their T-shirts, toilet paper entrepreneurs all the way. These guys, I love how they started. They were just making T-shirts. There's 1 billion people making T-shirts. They go to local parades, and they set up a little, probably even illegally, set up a little table before the police come and are selling T-shirts. But they were totally toilet paper entrepreneurs. What they did is they didn't care as much what they were selling. They cared what got stolen. They were paying attention to what people were trying to steal from them. And there was this one shirt design that kept on saying life is good, that people were going crazy over, and kids were trying to steal from them. And they said, we may have something here. So they started observing it closer, and they saw that grandmothers to bikers to babies were, mothers and fathers for babies were buying Life is Good shirts. And they said, holy smokes, we're sitting on something. On the street observations turned into a hugely successful business. So those guys are definitely another one that we all recognize that are TPEs all the way.
Michael, great stories. I mean, who would have ever think that you could actually get enormous insight about what to sell to people based on who's stealing stuff from you?
Yeah, and I think you have to have that mentality. If you look where everyone else is looking, you're going to see the same stuff. But if you are the first one to look elsewhere, you'll be the first to discover something new. And I think that's the lesson. Just because it was done yesterday doesn't mean that's going to work today. You constantly got to be looking for the next new thing, the next way of approaching something. You got to be different, and just goes back to that $100 example that we just started this interview with. The first one to do it gets it.
Yep, exactly. Well, so what are some of the most common excuses that people make to avoid not only launching a business but just being successful in business?
Well, the most common is the not now excuse. There's 100 reasons. The economy is a favorite. The economy's horrible. This is not the time to do it. Not now, no matter what. I'll wait until the economy recovers. The irony, though, with the greatest opportunity, I should say, is in a down economy. The reason is because everyone else is saying not now. And we just touched on this. What everyone's doing or looking at, look the other way. So in a down economy, most people are proverbially sitting in the corner, sucking their thumb, saying, I'm too scared to start a business. So there's less competitive startups. The other thing is in a down economy, a lot of the businesses that weren't being run efficiently and effectively are going out of business. So you hear these stories like, oh, this business folded, that business folded, GM's having trouble. They're not running inherently efficiently. They have problems. It's the natural process when the economy goes down that the bloated companies, the ineffective companies go under. So the competition starts going away. The beautiful thing is many customers may have less money, but they don't stop spending altogether. I'm still spending money. Joe, you're still spending money. People are still spending money. They're spending it differently. But with the competition going out of business, there's huge opportunities to pick up this lost business. And I'll give you one total toilet paper example. This is a favorite that I use with my clients. In a recession, I go into the Yellow Pages. People still use the Yellow Pages. And say I'm working with like a restaurant or something. We'll go in and look at all the competing restaurants, and we'll start calling every single one within a 25-mile vicinity and see which restaurants have gone out of business. And if they've gone out of business, what happens? They have disconnected phone numbers. So you call their number from the Yellow Pages, and it's disconnected. So what do? We call Verizon, that's our local phone provider, or AT&T or whatever, and we say, give us that phone number and redirect it to our phone. And overnight, we pick up inevitably 10 or 20% new business because there's customers ready and willing to buy from that restaurant that dials that number only to get disconnected. Now they're getting our service and say, hey, we now have this number. Unfortunately, the restaurant you were calling is no longer in business, but we provide the same food, actually better food, and we'd love to have you as a guest. Come on over. And people are discovering us because of this technique. So you gotta, it points back to think out of the box. And the excuse that the economy is horrible or is bad and I can't start a business, you have to recognize the excuse that everyone else is using. The reverse is true. It's the best time to start a business.
No, first off, that's a fantastic example that I hope that everyone really pay close attention to what you just said. That little technique alone, of just as an example of how to think outside of the box, could be worth a lot of money to a lot of people that are listening here. And secondly, just the mere fact of, I love this term from a good friend of mine that says, wherever there's anxiety, there's opportunity. And in the middle of a recession, in the middle of a bad economy, there's tons of anxiety. And if you're an entrepreneur that can create value in the world for people that are experiencing anxiety, because really, what are we all selling anyway? Solutions to problems. Even if someone's problem is they're hungry, they go to a restaurant. They're bored, they want to be entertained, they go to a movie. They need their carpets clean, they hire a carpet cleaner. They have cash flow issues, they hire a marketer, they hire a business coach, whatever. Wherever there's anxiety, there's opportunity. And for people to say, oh, in the middle of economy, it's just not the right time to start. It's like, what are you thinking? There's no better time to take entrepreneurial knowledge, wisdom, processes, and put it into a format that you can sell to people, and they will give you money. I mean, it's all over the place. So, I mean, I guess you're saying it's probably smart to start a business when the economy isn't so great.
Oh man, it's more than smart. It is the absolute right thing to do. You got to do it. Another excuse, just touch on the excuses, one I hear all the time is my age, right? So I speak to entrepreneurs and they go, I'm too young, I got a lot of life in front of me, I want to gain experience and knowledge before I get started. The funny thing is I talk with a lot of older people too, and they say, oh, now it's too late. I've never met a person that says my age is the right time. It's always too young, too old.
Exactly.
The right time to start a business is now. Once you feel the urge, you are on, Joe, as you were pointing out, you're on that diving board. Jump, baby, jump. Don't walk back until you're older. And who knows, you may be dead. And wouldn't it be a shame your last final thought was, I should have, could have? Damn, go for it.
Yeah, you know what? It's unfortunate. I really think that would be many people's lives, I mean, they sit there and it's just the regret because they never did it. So if anything else, this interview hopefully represents permission for you to just take some risks and do some stuff. And again, it's not about being reckless. It's not about being an idiot. It's about, building your confidence, reaching your dreams, figuring out what you're passionate about. And again, you describe all of that in the book, which is why people really would benefit from picking it up and reading it. Well, let me ask you, what is the dumbest decision that an entrepreneur can make?
If there is one. Classic biggest mistake is get rich quick. If you're in it to get money now, you're going to get destroyed. I mean, hey, occasionally it happens. Sometimes someone wins the lottery. I never have. And I wonder how many people listening, Joe, have won the lottery. It's probably basically no one. And if you're in business to get rich quick, you'll get destroyed. And the reason you'll get destroyed is because the guy or the gal that's competing against you, that's doing it because they love to do it, they're going to eat you up. When the dark days come, when the struggle comes, that happens in every business. Everyone goes through dark days and stuff. When the dark days come, the get rich quick folks are out, and the people that are doing it because it's their passion stick it out. And when it comes to that little extra effort, and it's milliseconds that separates the gold from the silver. When in entrepreneurial success, it's milli effort that separates the winners from the losers. The people that are willing to put in that little extra effort are the ones that are passionate. And the ones that are trying to do it for money and they don't see the money coming back, they lose attention and they're off to the next get-rich-quick scheme. So if you're in it to make money fast and overnight, forget it. If you're in it because you love it, if you're in it because you think you're doing the best thing that's most appropriate for you because it resonates with you, you will be successful. And the irony, of course, is those are the folks that make the most money because they're not doing it for the money. They do it because they love it, and it comes across genuine, sincere. People understand it. There's care behind it. There's excellent quality, excellent convenience, extraordinary prices. However they're differentiating themselves, it's there, and they get rewarded with all the money. All the customers flock to them.
Fantastic. I mean, there's one line that you have, a couple sentences actually in your book where it says, owning a business is not about working your ass off for the sake of trying to squeeze out a living. It is not about making tons of money at the expense of losing a life. And basically what that means to me is I heard this author say, what people really want out of, not business, but just life in general is more woo and less ah. And, most entrepreneurs, and you kind of said it at the beginning, if you really study and look at people that are successful, I mean, some days waking up and going to work and doing your stuff is like you're literally fighting a war. And every successful entrepreneur has been through some major shitstorms. And in the process, it's so much more about making money. I mean, the really successful people, you take Richard Branson, who's one of the greatest entrepreneurs on the planet. I mean, right. Next month I'm spending 5 days for our second trip in Necker Island with him. And, the reason I hang out with that guy is the same stuff you were talking about at the very beginning. I want to observe what this guy does, how he does it. And I mean, I've fortunately developed a relationship with this person. Now, he has more money than he'll ever need to know what to do with. Why does he start more companies? Why does he do this stuff? Because, for one, it makes him feel good. Secondly, he loves to contribute. But that drive is that passion that he has harnessed, and that's just what he does. And people that sit on the outside and say, oh, these greedy entrepreneurs, all they're trying to do is make money. I mean, they don't even get it. They don't even know what the hell they're talking about or thinking. And yeah, it's extraordinarily ignorant to just the sole purpose of, oh, let's go make money. Because for one, those people never stick with anything. Secondly, their entire life is just episodic, looking for the next big hit. And they fortunately are like the lottery winner that buys a lottery ticket every single day, scratches it, hoping, but they never win.
Yeah.
And at the end of it, and if they would have taken that same time and focused it into something where the odds actually were stacked in their favor based on intelligence, they might have actually developed some long-term, very valuable, awesome business that really helped a lot of people.
Yeah, the irony of money is I consider money the great amplifier. Money simply allows you to be more of you faster. So say I had a drug addiction, like a serious drug addiction, and if I got money, we all know I'll start doing more drugs. It allows me to be more of me. But if I'm doing something that truly satisfies me, Richard Branson's a perfect example. When he brings money in and he plows it back into doing more of what his passion, what his focus is, what he is all about. And the other thing which I find ironic is we all earn the money we get. And there's a few people of us that get money up front, but we still earn it. The perfect example is lottery winners. I don't know the exact statistics, but it's an inordinately high number of people that win the lottery, ultimately become homeless, become drug addictions, and are wrecked with problems. And the reason is because the money comes flooding in and it amplifies who they are at that moment. And it does not satisfy their purpose in life, and they go on the path of learning what money is all about, and it can be a bad consequence. So I think if there's a right way of getting rich, and I actually say in my book, get rich right. I say it over and over. Find what your passion is. Find what your heart calls out to do, and then figure a way of monetizing it. And the monetizing it simply allows you to do more of it. And the more of it, the more fulfilled, the happier you become. And the more you enable other people to see that and follow that path that you've defined.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Let me ask you some real interesting questions then that I think are kind of a little contrarian. How can an MBA be a hindrance to building a successful business?
So an MBA potentially means you're putting something on delay. An MBA is a delay. That's my little rhyme I use. And so I think a lot of people, I don't have an MBA, so I can only conjecture this, but I think a lot of people go out, get an MBA thinking, wow, I'm going to find the divine code for starting a business. Well, let me tell you where the divine code for starting a business is. It's inside the business. I mean, that's the way you learn. You got to start it and do it. So an MBA can be a hindrance because, first of all, it delays your start. And the right time to start, inevitably, is right now, this moment. So that's the first challenge. The second thing is it gives you artificial experience or artificial awareness. And people are telling you, this is the way to do it. This is how you do it. Now, you have to recognize a curriculum is prepared over time. So the information, the knowledge that's being transitioned to you at that point is stale. And unfortunately, with many colleges, my experience is the curriculum could be 5, 10 years old. So you're getting stale knowledge. And like we said earlier on in this talk we're having, Joe, that if you're using stuff from yesterday, you're too far behind. You got to be the first one to do it the new way. So an MBA is training you on techniques that are stale and outdated. You got to invent the new one. There is one benefit from the MBA, and it ties back into those 5 friends. Maybe you can find the 5 people in there that are really driving forward, and then you can build your own genius network out of that. But otherwise, I discount the value of an MBA significantly as compared to just going out and doing it.
I love what you said. You said the divine code is in the business. And I mean, I've talked to a lot of people over the years that when they would sincerely ask me, what's the best way to build and grow a business, and they're going to college to get an MBA. And I'm like, you're going to learn more in 6 months of running your own business or working for someone running a business, having them apprentice you, you're going to learn more probably in 3 months or even 2 weeks with the right sort of individual than many people learn in 4 years of college. Because the divine code, like you said, is in, I mean, you really want to know what it's like to play football, play the game, don't sit in the stands and watch.
Exactly.
I mean, you kind of get some insight that way. Well, let me ask you another interesting question, and this is all talked about in your book. So why is a business plan a total waste of time?
Okay, so a business plan is a total waste of time because you were requested, again, this comes generally from our schooling, but maybe your schooling isn't the traditional sense colleges, but maybe some mentors or some organization tells you got to write a business plan. And what it says is, to me, is absurd. What are your projections for 5 years, the next 5 years in financials? Well, shit, if I could project my own business, I haven't started yet for 5 years, I probably could predict the stock market for just one day. And if you can predict the stock market just for one day, you can be as rich or richer than Warren Buffett. So it's already an absurd thing to think you can predict it that far. The other thing is, who's your dream team? Who are the mentors and all the big names you're going to surround yourself with? Well, let me tell you something, bucko. They're not going to show up. When you got to open that door and times are tough, the people that are volunteering and are the big names, they have their own lives to live. You are the dream team. You, the entrepreneur, have to make it happen. So inherently, business plans don't work. And I've consulted for and partnered with, some of the world-leading entrepreneurs and the millions of successful people, names that you haven't heard of but are just rocking it out. And none of them have business plans. Or if they do, it's collecting dust on the shelf for the last 3 years. There's a way better method, and it's a dynamic planning system that really gets you there. But a business plan, it's effectively a waste.
Yeah, well, and you go in, of course, into detail in your book, so people that resonate with that whole philosophy, you will really love what you have to say in The Toilet Paper Entrepreneur. Well, another thing, how does a lack of money give you an advantage over your competitors? Because many people would wish they had lots of money, but you actually say that lack of money actually can be a huge advantage.
Yeah, and I dare say it's your biggest asset. So most people, their excuse is, I don't have enough money to start. Let me tell you right now, very succinctly and clearly, what money's for. It simply is to support your current standard of living. You, as a startup entrepreneur, whatever stage you are in entrepreneurship, you have to decide what is the lowest standard of living you're willing to be at, and then what amount of money covers that. Listen, if you're willing to live in a box out on the street, you don't need much money, and you can start a business. But if you're not willing to sacrifice your nice high-end Mercedes and Land Rover to get the new business going, you have a much higher standard, a much bigger amount of cash flow you need coming in to support your next step. So that's all money does. But here's what the lack of money does. It forces ingenuity. And they say necessity is the mother of invention. When you launch a business and you have no money, you have to find ways of doing it. One example is if you did have money and you were starting that restaurant example we were talking about earlier, what do? Well, you run your own Yellow Page ads. But if you start a restaurant and you have no cash, you say, damn, I need Yellow Pages ads, and I can't afford them. And that's when you start thinking, how do I get Yellow Page ads without money? My competition has these ads they're not even using because they went out of business. I'm going to grab those. So the lack of money truly brings about innovation. It brings about better questions in your mind that result in better answers.
Yeah, I was in that same boat. You have to rely more on wit and talent and less on money. And I've seen people that either get investors or they just happen to have money and they are promiscuous with it. They just don't think about it. They're reckless, and I've seen people literally destroy companies because of the improper use of spending and just complete idiocy that exists when you just have it. So as crazy as it may sound for some people to think that lack of money is an advantage, I would really encourage you to go back and what you said, lack of money forces ingenuity. And it does. Go ahead.
I thought one interesting thing that came out, it was when Mark Cuban announced that he's going to start his own little VC fund or angel fund. And what he said is, only come to me with business plans that show profitability in 30 days and is not through an advertising model. Otherwise, I'm not interested. And I think that's the right approach. and then, hey, if you can become profitable in 30 days, you don't need a VC, you don't need Mark Cuban, you don't need money in the first place. But that's the mentality you got to go in with. Can your business start turning money and being profitable right away? That's the way I think the new business model is. I know it is.
Well, how would you respond to like wannabe entrepreneurs who are waiting for angel financing and people to show up and like Santa Claus with the big bag of money?
Yeah, forget it. Just go for it. And if you want a good valuation, I've done the VC route. I've done the road shows. I never raised VC money because I came back to this foundational belief that lack of money was a better thing. But if you want a great valuation, show them you're already throwing money to the bottom line. Show them a 20% net profit, and your valuations will skyrocket. So if you're waiting for the money bags, it probably won't come. I think 1 out of every 500 people that seek funding ever get any variant of funding. And if you come to them with a proven model that's actually throwing off cash to the bottom line, you'll get a better valuation anyway. So just start. Screw it. Start.
Okay, Mike, well, in your book you talk about a super strength. What is a super strength?
So a super strength is actually a combination of strengths. There's a lot of material out there about identifying your strengths and so forth, and they're usually singular categories. I'm a great speaker, or I'm a great accountant. But it's really a blend of things. You got to take your story, your history, with these individual strengths and come up with one super strength. So just from my own example, I played lacrosse in college. I love public speaking. I studied some comedy, a form called self-deprecating comedy, and these other elements.
No, I never would have guessed you would have ever studied self-deprecating. I mean,
right.
That would just I'm sorry to interrupt, but that was just so mind-boggling that I could never even fathom that. But sorry, go ahead.
Appreciate that. So you combine these things, and it comes out with this unique super strength. I mean, how many people can say, they played lacrosse in college and did this and did that and come together? And I pull all the special elements from it, and it delivers outwardly a very unique package. Now, my brand in my most current business is me. It's my face and my personality. But my prior businesses, no one knew me. I had a computer forensics business, but we did the Enron trial. We did some of the biggest murder trials this country's ever seen. If you remember BTK kill, or Bind, Torture, Kill, we were involved in that project doing the computer crime investigation. But we got into those because of this unique super strength. I came in at an angle that no one else could touch. Now, I don't go in front of people and say, hey, I played lacrosse, I did this and this. But all the certain strengths I had in those elements, I used and combined, and unequivocally would beat out my competition because of this uniqueness.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, what happens to an entrepreneur, when they identify and develop a super strength? I mean, what is the byproduct of this?
The byproduct, when they come out of it, is with branding. They come out with, ultimately, they should be able to find their purpose, and that's the foundation, I think, for any business launches. Why are you doing this? We talked about earlier. It's not about money. What are you trying to do? So in my example, I want to enable aspiring and startup entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs are doing less than $1 million in revenue today. I want to get those people to the next level, because I believe that is the foundation for the world economy. I mean, that has to happen. So I'm on a real purpose here. And I know that's my purpose too, because just right now, as I'm saying it, the hair standing on the back of my neck. You can hear me probably getting fired up. I'm getting very animated, because that's what I'm all about. So when you find your super strength, you'll see that it correlates to a purpose, the real reason why you're doing what you're doing, and that becomes very powerful when you put that message out to market and tell people why you're doing it. It's genuine. You can't fake it, because you don't have to fake it, and people would read through it if you were faking it, but because you're not, it resonates with people. They're very attracted to it, and they start consuming what you have to offer, and they become champions. They don't just become consumers of your product; they actually become champions of what you're doing.
Right. Well, let me ask you about. You have a process of how to increase how a business can increase their revenue by 600%. So how does someone do that?
Oh, so
there's a lot of entrepreneurs listening.
Yeah, anyone can do this. I did it with one of my clients. What it boils down to is they had a few employees. They had about 7 employees at this place. And the owner was his name was David, very focused on what he wanted to achieve, but there wasn't much congruency among the team. And could you imagine having, for example, a soccer team where half the team did not know where the goal was, and then 3 or 4 players were actually working against you? I mean, you would never get there. A soccer team is successful when everyone knows exactly where we got to put that ball and how we're going to work together. So what we did in his business is we said we got to get everyone on the same page. I mean, really on the same page. And it's got to be a singular visual goal. So the trick we did at his business was we set a goal for our revenue targets and how customers were responding to us, the amount of testimonials we'd be getting in from our customers. Then we said we're going to make it visual by buying gold bullions, fake ones, but gold bullions, and start stacking up. And every time we made progress, $10,000 in sales, in cumulative sales, or if we had a certain amount of testimonials, we'd be putting down these gold bullions. When the pyramid got to a certain height, we had like that little kind of red marker on the wall. Everyone in the office got a real gold bullion. So you got to kind of see this out. The first day or two, people are like, oh, it's kind of cool. By the third or fourth day, people are walking into the office, going right to the gold bullion stack and seeing how they're doing. And the celebrations that were ensuing when there was bullions there, people were getting fired up and sharing around the office. Well, our projection of achieving this $1 million of new additional revenue was about 1 year out. We did it in 3 or 4 months because there was such congruence between everyone. Everyone's so driving toward it. And then when the gold bullions were handed out, oh my God, they cracked the crystal too. I mean, it was a huge celebration. So it almost sounds a little hokey, but that's all you need. You need to get everyone grounded, all your team members. It could be you and one other person. It could be 5 people. It could be 100 people. You got to get absolutely the same X on the map of where everyone's headed and tie in a very visceral, a very visual, stimulating message behind that. And it will result in 600%. It'll result in 1,000%. It'll result in more. You've got to get that everyone congealing on that same target.
Yep, absolutely. So, and the more aligned you are with all your team players, the more everything works. I mean, it's simple as that. It's kind of like what your sports analogy. So let me ask you, this is kind of interesting. I mean, you built 3 multi-million-dollar companies, and you still supposedly sit on a used office chair. Is that correct?
Oh, hell yeah. I'm sitting on it right now. Yeah.
Well, why? What is that all about?
Well, when I start my businesses, now that I recognize the power of no money, I start using it. So, trust me, when I started this office, I could have got some, pretty nice grade A space right in Manhattan, right on Park Avenue, and got all this sweet space. But first of all, I'd be burning money. The second thing is, it's incongruent with who I am. I don't like people that are showing off to show off. Look at all my success. By the way, it used to be me, but I felt that gut-wrenching, that's not right thing, so I've realigned. I like to be the scrapper guy. I mean, that's really who I am. So instead of putting any money into the business, what I did, I put out an email to about 50 of my friends and just said, hey, guys, starting a new business, number 3, I need furniture and stuff. If anyone's moving or anyone has stuff they're going to be chucking out, just give me a heads up. Well, one of my buddies, he owns a hedge fund. He emails and says, you know what, we are moving. If you're willing to get your ass over here with a pickup truck, pick up stuff. So I did 3 trips with a friend, and I furnished my office. Now, let me tell you the exciting story behind that, why this business is a multi-million-dollar business. My valuation, I brought in an angel group came in here to check it out. They valued this company at $1.2 million, I think it was, that day. Pre-concept, not pre-revenue, pre-concept. I didn't even know what the business was. All they knew was me and this used furniture and stuff. And they said, holy cow, we know what you can do, and we love your attitude and how you're approaching this. Where you're worth about $1.2 million. We'll buy you right now. Pre-concept. I mean, that's how powerful it is.
Well, I think a lot of it has to do more so with you even just proving the point. It's not like you really need to sit in used office furniture, but it's because of that mindset that has allowed you to do what it is you do. And also, I had a copywriter that I learned a tremendous amount from that would always tell me that if you really want to understand who your market is and who you're selling to when you're selling to the masses, he's like, ride the bus to work. Yes. Literally take the bus and just be in there like real people. Don't ever get this attitude that you're above anybody, because you will then make idiotic decisions. And in the case of writing copy, you're just not going to write really compelling copy that's talking to people that you're trying to sell to. And lots of wisdom to be gained there. Well, so you really focus a lot on young entrepreneurs. I mean, your company, Obsidian Launch, invests in young entrepreneurs. And so I wanted to ask you, why do you prefer to work with groups of unexperienced young startups versus veteran business owners and whatnot.
Yeah, and that model's actually recently shifted, and I'll explain why. But the reason I like that market, I still work in that market. I've invested in a few companies that do that. This one I have actually is called Hedgehog Leatherworks. It's growing explosively, and the guy is 24. But what I like is lack of experience is probably your biggest ally. Someone told me this little metaphor or analogy, whatever, just recently, and I love it. I want to make it my own. And what she told me, she said, 20 years of experience is simply 2 years repeated 10 times. And the point is, we become ingrained. We start repeating patterns over and over, and that's all experience is a repetition of patterns until it becomes an absolute belief. The problem with that is things change, and what worked for you yesterday probably won't work for you tomorrow. So I love working with these new, fresh minds that come in and they tackle things that have never been done that way. So this company, Hedgehog Leatherworks, they're in the leather industry. They make leather products for knives, for sheaths, and for guns, any kind of holsters. They make those things. Talk about an old industry. I mean, the Smith & Wesson's been around since, I think, the late 1800s or something. So, this guy comes in. He's got such a fresh mind. He starts coming with bizarre ways of doing it. So much that I know he was on the right course when people started telling him, his name was Paul, you can't do things that way, Paul. That's how the industry does. The industry doesn't work that way. You got to understand. You got to learn, son. And I was like, this guy's beautiful. He quote unquote doesn't get it, which is the most beautiful thing. And I'm telling you, he's gutting the industry. He is changing things radically, and customers are flocking to him. If you check out his site, you can see what he's doing, but I won't share the secret tip. So my own experience burned me. I thought the next generation of entrepreneurs was going to be people right out of college. The next generation of entrepreneurs, what I'm discovering that resonate with what I'm doing, is women, 35 to 55. I never expected it, particularly, Potty Talk Mike, no freaking way. Well, you know what? It is the group. I started getting calls from women entrepreneurs saying, hey, I'm looking to get back into business. I want to go about it a new way. I read your book. I love it. You're the first guy ever I hear to talk to women this way, straightforward, no bullshit, no pandering. I love what you're doing. Well, I got enough of those calls. I said, my own experience is guiding me the wrong way. I got to clear my mind, and started working more and more with women. And now I'd say 80% of my effort, 80% of the investments I consider, 80%, not 80%, but maybe 50% of the people buying my book are women entrepreneurs. And now I'm becoming a true believer that is truly our next frontier is women entrepreneurs.
Well, yeah, and I actually we're both good friends with Marie Folio, who's phenomenal and funny and awesome and all that jazz. But anyway, due to time, I want to give you an opportunity to any famous last words and then next steps for people. Now, what I would say is I would encourage everybody to get a copy of The Toilet Paper Entrepreneur, The Tell It Like It Is Guide to Cleaning Up in Business, even if you're at the end of your role, with all of the potty humor and whatnot that's in there. It is a fantastic book, and you will learn a tremendous amount. And if you resonated with anything that we talked about here, you're absolutely going to love. You're going to love the book and the exercises and processes that you've laid out there, Mike. So, where can they get the book? Anything else you'd like to add? How can they find out more information about you? And then any famous last words?
Yeah, sure. So, I'll save my famous last words, like you said, for last. But in regards to the book, Amazon's the best place to get it. Here's something that's kind of unique. Actually, Joe, I never even told you this. And when I talk about my book to people, I thank you. And I've never even told you this. I saw you present in Boston. That's where the first time I met you for maybe 3 seconds. But you were talking about putting a phone number on a book and with a pre-recorded message and how powerful that is. And so I looked at all the authors in my niche, and no one did that. And so I have a phone number on the back of my book. It's a little trick I learned from you, and sure enough, sales started popping up faster. So thank you to you. But
you're welcome. And do you want me to give that number out?
Yeah, sure. You want me to tell the number?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it'd be funny. It's a free recorded message on the cover of your book.
So on the back of the book, it says, for a good time, call. And here's the phone number, 1-800-918-5880. So 800-918-5880. So, and there's a little lesson, if I can give one final lesson. If you're in your industry, get the freak out of your industry. I went to a carpet cleaners industry to get that technique, what you do, and brought it to an industry where no one's doing that. It was amazing. So thank you. So anyone that wants to get the book, the best place to get it is on Amazon.com. The reason is there's a little hidden trick, and the cat's a little bit out of the bag, but I'm not going to let it out any further. Just get on Amazon, and every so often someone gets very well and happily surprised. I'll just leave it at that. If you're interested in going a step further, though, I encourage people to go to our website, toiletpaperentrepreneur.com. I'm just starting up a seminar series that's very powerful where, listen, in my book, every ounce of my knowledge is in that book. I mean, that is the starting point. Get there and learn it. But if you want to go deeper, if you really want to pick something like the 3-sheet strategy or something, get on my website, check out the blog, check out everything, and you'll find there the ways we're starting to do these seminars, the seminars that we have going on, and I can take you the distance with that. And then the most important thing is my final thought, Joe, and it's about action. I think, and we said it over and over in this call, that so many people get inspired but let themselves think out of it. So many people hear stuff that resonate with them, but then they let the mind take over that says, I can't do it, all these limiting beliefs. I'm telling people, I do it in every seminar I do in every call I do it on everything. Take action now. So if you felt something resonate with you, if you felt this is your time, this is your opportunity, do not delay. I'm saying don't even wait 2 minutes. Get started now. You get right on that computer and you form the LLC. Or if you have a business, you take the next step. You make the call to Joe. You do whatever you can right now. It has to be an irrevocable move. You have to do something where you can't say, I'm not going to do it. Not like, I'm going to schedule something 3 days from now and then you sleep in and forget about it. I'm saying pick up the phone and do something right now that forces commitment to your own progress. And if you do that, you'll be equivalent to that $100 bill person that gets up. The momentum becomes inevitable. You have to go for it. So get started now.
Awesome. Well, Michael, thank you so much for your time, for sharing your wisdom and your guidance, and I hope all of our listeners take very much to heart what it is that you had to share. We'll go deeper and read your book, and both Michael and I would love to hear your feedback from this interview and hear about your successes in the futures. And so until our paths cross again, want to wish you guys the very best, all the listeners, and go out there and develop yourself as a toilet paper entrepreneur. Thanks again, Mike.
Thank you, Joe. I really appreciate it.
Hello, this is Joe Polish. I want to thank you for taking the time to listen to this interview. I hope you found it very useful. Please give me your feedback on all of the interviews that you listen to. I'd love to hear your feedback so we can always deliver a great program for you. Our website is www.joepolish.com, and we also have a Joe Polish Recommends section, so you can take a lot of the ideas and concepts that you hear on my Genius Network interview series and apply them to your business and find vendors and resources. You can go to joepolish.com to find that information and click on the Joe Polish Recommends section. And also, if you would like to find out about more interviews and invest in more useful Genius Network series interviews, go to www.geniusnetwork.com. Thanks, and eat your competition alive.